22nd annual running of Southern Africa's toughest motoring adventure, the Roof of Africa Rally, was set for the middle of October. Weeks of mild spring weather changed dramatically 2 days before the rally started in Maseru, capital of Lesotho. Rain, snow and ice blanketed the tiny landlocked country as the event the locals call the Bringer of Rain drew near. The leading lights from last year's rally have their say.
Ons kanse verjaar dink ek baie goed met hierdie voertuig. Hulle het baie werk. Die fabriek het baie werk daaraan gedoen. En hy het nog nooit gevoel soos hy nou voel nie. Maar so sê ons elke keer, né, dan voel die kar of hy nog beter is as wat hy nog ooit is, maar hierdie keer glo ons wel hy is nog nooit so goed.
Maar ek dink hierdie jaar is ons weer hier so om te wen en ons gaan definitief ons bes probeer en ek sien dit reën alweer. So ek kry die manne in die ander sandgoggas maar net jammer. Vir ons moet dit alright te gaan, dankie.
Hastily fitted windscreens to open cars were the order of the day as racers learned of the bad weather.
Well, it's a bit of an experiment. We had a tremendous problem with mud last year, and as you can see, it is wet again this year. So we'll see how it goes. My main worry is water. We haven't got a very good water supply, and hopefully we don't have to use too much water to keep the mud off the screen.
We'll be riding our faithful Safari. 601 is our number. It stood us in good stead so far, but I would much have preferred to have ridden our new little monster, which is still floating on the bay somewhere down in Durban.
We've got all the overseas riders. We've got Alfie, we've got Willie, Port. There's going to be really a big fight this year, I think. And depending on the weather, will probably favour us if it gets drier, I think. But the overseas guys if it's really wet.
Tough guy Willie Island sets off.
Heeltemal tot die einde, definitief. Ek wil hom nie eens sien nie.
No, I don't believe that I'm able to win the Roof this year because there are strong guys like Francisowicz, a friend of mine, and also Kevin Hines from USA, and also the South Africa. I think they improved a lot, so that it will be hard for me to win this year. But I will do my best, I think.
The traditional Round the Houses event was started by the Minister of Transport, Colonel Mukhanso. Each class raced for 12 kilometers through the streets of Maseru and through a polo field, which soon became a mud bath and a foretaste of what was to come. Derek Pinoy and Roland Geiger set the pace in the competitive twin-seater specials class. Top driver Klaus Degener built a two-seater because he was tired of getting lost on other off-road events. For the earlier car races, the ground was dry, but things can and would change. Class 7 for single-seaters gets flagged off. The race is important because it sets the starting order for the first racing section, a timed trial. Some seem reluctant to take the very first bend as spectators scatter. He got going again, taking a hay bale with him. The big boys, the truck class where most of the action could be expected. A team from the Royal Lesotho Defence Force enter a bright blue truck called the Rock Spider every year. The polo field, water polo perhaps. Some were to strike trouble sooner than others, and many started to have second thoughts about the 1988 Roof of Africa Rally. The first of the bikes, the over 250cc machines, the rain came down. Chunky off-road tyres don't work too well on wet tarmac, as this bunch found out. Some riders in the 200 class didn't even make the first turn, and the race was restarted. Although these were the smallest bikes, it was the biggest field. Hilary Lewis, riding a 200 Kawasaki, was the only solo woman entrant this year. By now, the mud in the field was really tricky, but that didn't seem to worry Alfie Cox on his 250 Kawasaki. Clive Strugnell on a Suzuki led for much of this race, but fell down with the Hilton Beatty. After the Round the Houses, a 60-kilometer time trial and the start to the real racing. A choir turned out, and everywhere the local motorsport fans gave the roofers lots of encouragement. If the route was unclear, there was always someone on hand to point out the way. Although in the mountains, some direction givers were more enthusiastic than accurate. Some cars sported hastily rigged mudguards in a vain bid to keep the mud off the crew. Fording rivers meant a brief car wash until the other side. Rivers were swollen from melting snow and heavy rain. But over the next 2 days, worse was still to come. Looking like huge beetles and breathing clouds of steam like prehistoric monsters, the cars lunged at the far bank, which was becoming a rutted, slippery nightmare. Crews of cars with windscreens would battle to see through them, but the open cars would soon be awash with Lesotho's topsoil. Richard Carolyn scarcely seems to need all his wheels in the rough terrain. All the cars had tow ropes already fitted to the front bumpers, and many would need them. Some teams did some careful thinking about tyres. Veteran roofer John Smith's buggy sports tractor tyres at the back wheels. He was one of the few who got a good grip on Africa, even if not everything was firmly attached. Getting right across the river needed a clear run. And when the man in front's unsure of the safest route, the wise just wait a while. Some tried a form of mechanical hyperventilating. Is that a human being? Across the river, one man is still stuck at the bottom of that slippery bank, and he enlists the aid of some enthusiastic locals. Last year's winner, Philip Malone, grabbed an early lead, letting everyone know he was coming through and making the whole thing look so simple. Special thin mud tyres cut through the surface and grip the solid ground underneath. Even with lessons from Milan and Hannes Grobler, it looks as if he's going to be at the bottom of that bank for quite a while. The truck's full bodywork keeps the muddy water under control, and the crews don't even get their feet wet. Although later on, navigators would be forced to wade chest deep through the icy rivers to find safe footing for the cars. Young porters were always available for a fee, payable on the other side, of course. The multiple German champion Bert von Zitzewitz was in his element in the typically European muddy conditions, and after quickly working out a route across the river, the traffic jam on the far side didn't worry him at all. American gold medalist Kevin Hines was later to admit that the roof was the toughest race of his entire life. But he's coming back next year, and he'll be bringing some friends too. But local star Jeremy Davies seems hard-pressed to match the foreigner's pace in the cold and wet conditions. His Kawasaki's engine flooded with water. With just 80 kilometers of the 800-kilometer route completed, the roof was taking its toll as competitors were sidelined by mechanical failure or were time-barred. A dawn start to day two saw a thinning entry of teams facing a short